My stovetop is not turning on. Okay.
Alright.
Now you can
Good
go
luck.
cut the grass. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today we're in the kitchen, obviously. And obviously we're in our new kitchen. So that's why you see all this painter's tape behind me. I have to finish the countertops. And the dishes are just because I'm lazy, so don't look at those. So yeah, sorry I've been a little MIA on this channel. It's just because we've been so busy fixing up our old house to sell it, and then also fixing this one because it was a total just complete renovation, and then we had to fix it to move in here so it was livable. So basically, I know you can't see everything else around me, but everything's covered in moving boxes and tools and paint, and everything's just a disaster, but what isn't right now, am I right? I did have a few requests to start doing cooking videos, but the problem was in the townhouse, the lighting was terrible in the kitchen. It just would have never worked. And also, I got myself a kitchen island, and I'm very excited because this is slowly turning into my dream kitchen, and I am so excited because recently, ever since I got married, I've been so into cooking, which I never was growing up at all. And so I'm still learning, obviously. I've only been married for almost 2 years. So I'm a new chef, if that's what you want to call me. Today I'm officially starting a cooking segment where I show you my go-to recipes for the week. It's basically cooking for two, cooking on a budget, and basically cooking when you don't know how to cook. Yeah, basically like cooking for when your mom didn't teach you how to cook. No shade to my mom, Danelle, you're great. But you know, she's a very, very hard worker. She's working 2 jobs as a nurse. Cooking just really wasn't her passion, and I wasn't really interested, so it's not, you know, the blame's not on her, it's on me. This is a no judgment zone, by the way. I don't do things probably like they should, but again, I'm not a professional. I just started learning how to cook literally like a year ago, so don't judge me and my methods. But these recipes have been tested, they're great, and they're super easy to do. So without further ado, let's get started. So, I'm gonna try and make it as easy to follow as possible, because this is something that I probably would have needed a couple years ago when I was clueless. So today we're making turkey meatballs and spaghetti. Oh yeah, just a little disclaimer as well. We are gluten-free in this house and dairy-free, and we don't eat red meat. So the recipes that I make are primarily gluten-free, dairy-free, and red meat-free. So I have all my ingredients laid out here. So what you're gonna need, this is like pots and pans wise. So get yourself a nice like medium-sized pot for your pasta, because again we're cooking for 2, you don't need a huge pot. We have a little pan here. This is again like a medium-sized pan. We're just gonna put our meatballs in here the last couple minutes, and we're gonna work on our sauce in here. Next, I have a baking sheet lined with tin foil. We are going to be putting butter on the outside of these meatballs. So, just a little tip, if you are using butter or oil or anything that could possibly get runny, make sure you grab a baking sheet with sides. I know that seems like super obvious, but listen, I'm trying to help the masses here. And then just to make sure things don't get stuck when we're trying to get the meatballs off, that is what the tin foil is for. You're also going to need just like a little medium-sized mixing bowl. This is just to put together your meatballs. So we're gonna get into some tools that you need. Oop, the oven's preheated, and that literally took like 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. We downgraded in appliances here, and I'm feeling it. So you're gonna need some measuring cups. We're probably just gonna use the half cup, so I just grabbed this little bunch right here. Obviously you're probably gonna need like a fork and a knife and stuff like that. But this is just for like, this is just some like extra stuff you're gonna have to have on hand. Next, I have a little pastry brush, or whatever you want to call this, because we're going to use this to brush the meatballs before they go in the oven. And last but not least, ingredients. So, obviously, spaghetti. We just have some jarred sauce here and some spaghetti. We are going to spice up the sauce a bit, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So we just have this, obviously. My turkey meat is in the fridge. Then we have some plant-based butter here. You could obviously use olive oil or regular butter. Next we have some gluten-free breadcrumbs. You can also get the seasoned breadcrumbs or like Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. I just get the plain and I kind of season it myself. You're also going to need 1 egg. This isn't necessary, but I know a lot of meatball recipes use Parmesan cheese, which obviously is dairy. I don't really like to use it or have it in the house. So I'm using just a tiny bit of nutritional yeast flakes. This is the Red Star brand, and I just use the tiniest bit, just for like texture purposes in the meatballs. Next are spices. So I'm literally running out of pepper, but you're gonna need pepper, Italian seasoning, onion powder and garlic powder, and some salt, which I just realized I left in my car. When I say just moved, we just moved out last night, so I still have salt in my car. That's basically everything you're gonna need. So first you're gonna start by preheating your oven just so that's out of the way. Whenever you're cooking like a meat of some sort, just stick with something safe between like 350, 375. I don't know much, but in my experience, 350 is usually safe. So even if it takes a couple extra minutes, it's better than, you know, making it too hot and making things burn. I went ahead and I filled up my pot 3/4 of the way with water. Now I'm gonna put it on the stovetop on high until it's boiling. My stovetop is not turning on, so that's fun. Let's try the back one. Okay, so I'm gonna have to wait for Nick to help me because the stovetop is not turning on. Of course it's not. Oh, this is my first meal in the house, by the way. So I'm just gonna get started on my meatballs. So, this is very important for when you're cooking for 2. Usually we'll just get a little container of ground turkey. Since we don't eat red meat, this is kind of what we use for a lot of things like chili, meatballs, meat sauce, stuff like that. At first, when I get it from the stores, I cut it in half. So either I'll use it, or I'll put both halves in the freezer, but separately, so that way I'm only using a half of it when I cook. Just half the container is plenty of food for my husband and I, so don't waste a whole thing of ground turkey if you are cooking for 2. So I'm gonna go ahead, and I thawed this. It was frozen, but I thawed this just this morning. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in my bowl. And then I hate raw meat, so I'm gonna throw this out. And the 1 egg is for, I'm pretty sure, a whole thing of turkey if we were to use the whole container. But 1 egg, obviously you can't use half an egg if you're using half the meat, but it tastes just fine. It doesn't taste eggy or anything. So 1 egg's gonna go in this bowl. I need somewhere to grab this. Next we're gonna start adding our spices, and for me personally, I just go by taste. I feel like every time I follow a recipe, I feel like I never used enough for me personally. I'm a big spice fan, just because since I do like to eat gluten-free and dairy-free, obviously things aren't going to taste as good, so I go pretty hard with spices. So yeah, using my garlic powder. For the sake of this video, I will just go by the amount of shakes, because I'm not measuring this out. So like, maybe like 10 shakes. 10 shakes per spice, I'd say. Onion powder's going in. Maybe that seems excessive to some of you, but again, this is a judgment-free zone, okay? Italian seasonings are going in. Pepper is going in. And obviously I'd use more pepper than this, but I'm running out, so that's all I'm gonna use for today. With nutritional yeast, throw in just a little bit, maybe a couple tablespoons, enough to just help with the texture. So for nutritional yeast, I'm just gonna put in a couple shakes. That's probably good. Because I hate the taste of nutritional yeast. However, when I made meatballs last time, you couldn't even taste it, so it just kind of helps with the texture again. So let me go grab my salt really quick. I have to run out to my car. I'm pretty sure that's where it is. So lastly, for spices, I'm going to throw in my salt. Go sneeze. Excuse me. Okay. So I'm going to do quite a bit of salt. And just do like pinches. This is Himalayan pink salt. I personally favor this salt, okay? Again, no judgment, no hate. I think it has the most like mild flavor, so I feel like you can really like, you know, put a lot in there as opposed to just like sea salt or table salt. Also, it's pink, so most people use their hands for this process, but I've noticed that using a wooden spoon works just fine. Again, I don't do anything correctly, but this is what works for me. So I'm gonna go ahead. I have not put my breadcrumbs in yet. I'm going to mix the turkey and the egg and the spices, and then just see where we are like texture-wise, and then see how many breadcrumbs I have to, not how many, and see how much of the breadcrumbs that I have to use. So let's mix this now. I have a mixture that looks like that. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add my breadcrumbs. The only problem too with seasoning meat is that obviously you can't really taste it. That would be kind of bad. So you kind of just have to eyeball your spices. Again, it comes with time, and you know, especially for your first time making these, just do a little bit and then see where you have to go for the next time you make them. Your mixture should be sticking together kind of like that. And obviously mine has like thicker chunks of, it looks like Rice Krispies, but I swear it's breadcrumbs. That's just the weird part about the gluten-free ones. So once your mixture is basically like sticking together and you can really see those breadcrumbs, you're good to go. So I used about maybe a cup of breadcrumbs when everything's said and done. So that's kind of an easier measurement. Alright, so I'm gonna throw in some more Italian seasoning. So what I do is I just kind of like eyeball it, and then if I see it needs some more color, some more like herbs, whatever, then I'll go ahead and add some more. So here's where it gets a little bit messy. Okay, so what we're gonna do, oh, screw it, I guess I'll stick my hands in it. I'm going to make little balls out of it. So just make sure everything is like mixed up. Kind of like knead it with your hands if you need to. And I'm gonna grab little sections about yay big. I'm going to roll them in the palm of my hand. So they look like that. And I'm going to stick it on my baking sheet. So I try to make them, you know, relatively even, just so they all cook at the same pace. And you see how much like meatball mixture that just half a thing of turkey made? Like, it's crazy. Okay, so my meatballs are all rolled out. They're all about the same size. I have 15 meatballs here. Literally from just a half package of turkey meat, I have 15 meatballs. That's like plenty. Way more than 2 people need, but I will probably eat them all. Anyway, so I went ahead and I melted like 1.5 tablespoons of butter. I used vegan butter. I think it's made with like olive oil. And this is where your pastry brush, or whatever the proper name is called, this is where it's going to come in handy. So go ahead and just dip your brush into your butter. And usually whenever I need to put olive oil or butter on something, I put it in a mug. It just makes for the easiest cleanup and just, you know, the easiest way to do it. Honestly, if you just pick them up and do it, it's probably the easiest thing. Now that everything is coated in butter, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it into the oven at 350 degrees, and then I kind of just, again, eyeball the time and just see when they're done. So I'm going to throw those in the oven and then tell you like relatively how long you should put them in the oven for. So here they go. Also, finally got the stove to turn on, so good news. It just took, you know, some maneuvering and also some scary moments because nothing was happening and, you know, all this gas was just coming in the house, and it's fine, it's fine. Now I have my pasta water boiling. The pasta should not take too long. And then the last thing we're gonna do is the sauce, because it only takes a minute to like spice it up, warm it up, and then we're gonna throw the meatballs in. I was just watching Nick go by on his riding mower, and he was literally oblivious to the world, and I was like maybe 20 feet away from him, so it's a good thing I didn't need help. Okay, so now that our water's boiling, I'm gonna go ahead and grab our pasta. Is anybody ever good at portioning out enough pasta for a certain amount of people? I don't think so. So, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. Make sure you get it everywhere. Okay, so for 2 people, I ended up using about half a package of pasta. If you are looking for gluten-free pasta, Barilla has the best kind, in my opinion, but my opinion is correct when it comes to this, so buy Barilla. Everything else is trash. Okay, so next, and one of the last steps, is just to warm up your sauce, put it on the stove, and then add a little bit of spices just to make it a little bit more of your own. So I have some ragu here. I'm going to add some seasonings to really spice things up a little bit. So I have onion powder, Italian seasoning, garlic powder. These are like my go-tos most of the time. So I'm going to throw that in and maybe a little bit of butter just to make it a little bit creamier. And that'll basically be the sauce. Alright, so your sauce is going to go on low heat, just because, again, we're just warming it up, we're not cooking anything. So just let that sit, and then it'll start to bubble in a little bit, and then we're going to add our meatballs. I went ahead and strained our pasta, again, super easy. Our meatballs are done. I know the gluten-free breadcrumbs are always thicker, so I know it looks weird, but I swear it's good. And then our sauce is starting to bubble, so I'm gonna go ahead and take some tongs and start transferring these into the sauce. Okay, and now with the heat on low, I'm gonna go ahead and just cover this for a few minutes. Okay, so here's my finished product. It's nothing too fancy, but it's definitely semi-homemade and definitely delicious. And obviously I had to put them in my fine china. So I hope you enjoyed my very first cook with me. I hope you stay tuned for more. Please let me know if you can come up with a good and clever name for this series. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.